Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Manifest Podcast. And today's episode was inspired by something that I have been thinking a lot about lately, and that is that meaningful change begins within. But before we dive in, I just want to give you a little update about what's been going on for me lately. I have been spending a lot of my time over on school. I recently started the daily art community, which is free, and people have been sharing their drawings and their paintings and their poetry, and it's just a really cool community. The other thing that I have been focusing on lately is Meditate with Sarah, which is my brand new community. It's a growing library of guided meditations, manifestation activations, and transformational audios designed to help you quiet the noise, trust yourself more deeply, and move through life with greater confidence and intention. So you can click on the link in the description of this podcast episode, and I would love for you to join us. So I was listening to a podcast episode recently with Alex Hormozi, who is the founder of acquisition.com. And it was such a great quote. In fact, there were several different quotes in this episode that I actually had to get out a pen and paper and write down, so you know that they're good. And the quote was this: where you place blame is where the power goes. Where you place blame is where the power goes. And it got me thinking about the ways in which, especially in modern society, we're handing our power over almost on a daily basis, where people can't make simple decisions without opening up ChatGPT to go, should I do this? Should I do that? What should I wear? How should I proceed? And so we spend so much of our lives trying to change the circumstances around us. And often we tend to feel powerless, that things seem out of our control. And so with the rise of things like artificial intelligence, we are on many levels outsourcing our own intuitive faculties. And so when we do feel powerless, things like we want more money or a different relationship or a new career or better health or more opportunities, greater certainty about what comes next. And these are the things that, we want to know that are going to happen and manifest with absolute certainty. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting those things, what I've learned, especially something over the years, that what I now understand is this has changed the way that I see transformation and ultimately how I guide people in my world. So meaningful change doesn't begin somewhere out there. It just doesn't. It begins within. It's an inside job. For a long time, and this is going back quite some time now, I believed that if I could just find the right strategy, the right plan, the right opportunity, everything would just seamlessly fall into place. And it quite often doesn't happen like that. But life, dear sweet life, has a way of teaching us that external circumstances are often reflections of something deeper, something going on a subterranean level. So when I first started studying meditation when I was about 19, and this was a long, long time ago in 1999, my whole world shifted very, very quickly when I started learning these spiritual tools. And I did meditation consistently. I was teaching meditation. I was studying meditation from the ages of 19 to 29. And then I started creating my own meditations. And so what this gave me, I had access to new levels of intuition, and my daily meditation practice became like almost rocket fuel for many of my best manifestations in my life thus far. And so the thing is, and this is something that I really want you to remember, is that before we create a new chapter in our lives, we must become the person capable of living it, capable of embodying it. So for instance, before we experience greater abundance, we must examine our relationship with receiving. And I often use this example as if somebody gives you a compliment and you kind of brush it off, or somebody brings you a gift and you say something like, oh, you shouldn't have. That is telling the universe that you're not open to receiving. And quite often what I've seen, especially with my clients and my students over the years, is that when they work on opening up their energy field to receive more, then the abundance starts flowing in. So another example is, before we trust our intuition, we must learn how to quiet the noise and trust our guts. And I think that's one of the powers of meditation, that it helps you to surrender, to dive deeper into the power of stillness. Another example is that before we feel at home in our lives, we must come home to ourselves. Before we feel at home in our lives, we must come home to ourselves. And this is why meditation has become such an important part of my journey. I remember when I would meditate with a group back in like the late 90s and early 2000s, around the same time that I became a mother to Thomas, who's now, oh my gosh, 25, nearly 25. He'll be 25 in a couple of months. I would often feel this tremendous sense of spaciousness within. And it's hard to explain, but it was like the room felt infinite. I would close my eyes. The meditations would sometimes take place for like 20, 30 minutes. And all of a sudden I felt like this, the only thing that I can describe it as is spaciousness. And so I'm not talking about meditation that like magically changes our lives or that kind of stuff. I'm talking about the way it changes us on a vibrational level, because fundamentally when you meditate, it raises your frequency. So you are interrupting the pattern of all of those limiting beliefs, all of those thought forms, to attract at a higher level into your life. And so it kind of creates space between who we've been and who we're in the process of becoming. And it connects us to superconscious energy, whether you call that God or divine intelligence or the universe. And it helps us to embody our highest potential. It allows us to hear our own wisdom beneath the expectations, the fears, the opinions, the never-ending distractions that seemingly surround us. And I think that the most meaningful transformations in my life have never begun with like a dramatic external event. They began first with an internal shift, whether it's a decision or a realization, those moments of brutal honesty where it's like, oh my gosh, yes, I have to face this, or like a willingness to let go of what no longer felt like it fit. You know, the things that no longer serve you, or perhaps even a commitment to trusting myself more deeply. And so the outer change and transformation came later. And that was, you know, the manifestations in and of themselves. Things like, in more recent years, my relationship with John, or the move to Las Vegas from Green Bay, or different various opportunities that I've been given, or the next chapter that's currently unfolding in my life. And first came the inner work. And perhaps that's the invitation for all of us to remember here, to stop searching for change exclusively outside ourselves. It's the thing that when we place all of the power outside of ourselves, when we do that, we miss so much. And the key is to become curious about what is ready to change within, because you can't force it. You have to wait until it's ready. It's like I've been dealing with this a lot lately. There never seem to be any ripe avocados in the supermarket. And then you're like, oh, I really want avocado. And you open it up and you try and smush it and mash it, and it's just not ripe enough, right? It's only when it's ready. So the key is to become curious about what is ready to change within. So I've come to believe that when we change the way we see ourselves, the way we think, the way we trust, the way we show up, and how we connect to superconscious energy, life begins to respond very, very differently. And in my own life, and in the lives of many people that I've known over the years, I've seen and witnessed meaningful change that begins within, and that everything else grows from there. So I think that it's just a powerful reminder, if you take anything away from today's short and sweet episode, it's that you have the power to guide your energy. Your life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And so often we look at the things that others would perceive as difficulties or struggles or hurdles, and we don't see them as opportunities and invitations to rise above them. Just like a siren is going off while I'm recording a podcast. And I think that really beautifully illustrates the way that God works perfectly in all situations. And I think that demonstrates that I've chosen today to record this podcast on my little iPhone microphone in my living room, and rather than my little makeshift studio that I have here in our apartment. And I did that because I feel the energy flowing more here in my living room, and I wanted to communicate that in the podcast today, fully knowing that there could be interruptions from the street or background noise or things like that. But the key to remember is that the message and the authenticity is there. It encapsulates this precise point in time that brought you here to this information. There are no accidents in life. You're here for a reason to hear that, to hear this reminder that you are an energetic being having a physical experience, and that the more you tend to that non-physical energy through communion with non-physical energy, through raising your vibration, through paying attention to the frequencies that are always offered to you to guide you forward to new opportunities, to new levels of abundance, to new relationships, the more you tune into the fact that everything is energy, and you, I want to say, hone that energy, you align with the energy of all good things, the more you meditate. So once again, if you would like to join me for Meditate with Sarah, if you've ever listened to any of my meditations, whether on YouTube or you've read my meditations in my best-selling books, then you're going to absolutely love a lot of the new content that's coming out very soon. There's going to be sleep meditations in there, meditations for your nervous system, meditations for your morning ritual. There's a 21-day creative quantum leap challenge in there. There's just a little bit of something for everybody, no matter what they're going through, so you can dip in and dip out, and you can really self-prescribe. So you can go to school.com/Sarah Prout. And I would love for you to join me. That's school, SKOOL.com/Sarah Prout. Thank you so much for being here with me for another episode of the what podcast? The Manifest podcast. I'm so grateful to spend this time with you each and every week. And send me a message, or if you would be so kind as to take a screenshot of this show and share it on social media. I am at Sarah Prout on Instagram, and it just means the world to me, because I know that the message of manifestation is getting out there to as many people as possible. So until next time, happy manifesting. Bye for now.